After accurately predicting much of Trump's presidency, including not being convicted in impeachment, Richard Hanania is back with his political predictions for 2024, specifically who the Democrat and Republican nominees for president will be, and president and co-founder of the Center for the Study of Partisanship and Ideology, Richard Hanania himself. He joins us now to discuss. Richard, what is the prediction that you're making here? Trump will be nominee in 2024. Now, I guess a bold one, but lay out your calculus.
Well, it's, you might say it's not bold, but if you look at the betting markets, it gives him about a 25% chance, and that's leading. And I think that's ridiculously low. So, of course, anyone who tells you they know it's going to happen in 3 years now with 100% certainty is probably leading you on. But it's not 25%. It's much higher than that. I put the numbers about 75, 80%. And the story of Trump and the Republican Party is that there's been just a consistent sort of stream of events. So he comes down the escalator in June 2015. About a month later, he said he makes fun of John McCain for being captured by the Viet Cong. People think, oh, this is the end of Trump. He stays at the top of the polls. People think he's going to collapse. He stays at the top of the polls for months and months. This is, still 7 months before the first primaries. He wins the primary. And then for the next 6 years, until today, people say this is the end of Trump. This is when the party is going to turn on him. They stick with him through the first impeachment. The party becomes more and more Trumpified. Then January 6th happens. Okay. And so Trump gives a speech in front of the White House. It ends with Mike Pence and Republicans in Congress feeling that their lives are under threat and Trump has lost the election. And people go, okay, this is surely it. This is as bad as it gets. He's got the stink of being a loser. Plus, he literally put the Republican Congress in danger. And few break with him. Few actually vote to convict him. It's 85% of congressional Republicans in the House of Senate don't vote to convict him. And now he seems, if anything, more powerful than ever. I mean, if you look at the fact that Liz Cheney is gone and she's being replaced by Stefanik, and there's no ideological case for Stefanik at all that I've seen anybody make. She's one of the most liberal Republican members in Congress. Chip Roy wasn't even seriously considered. Chip Roy is extremely conservative. The only difference between Roy and Stefanik is more of a Trump loyalist and will go along with whatever he says. While Chip Roy is a conservative, but a little bit more skeptical of the election fraud narrative. And so, the question becomes, what's going to happen between now and 24? I mean, people say a lot can happen in 3 years. A lot has happened in the last 6 years, and nothing has ever changed. So you have to sort of imagine a scenario for Trump not to get the nominee, that something more extreme happens in, say, January 6th, and this stranglehold he has on the party goes away, and it's just difficult to see.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, actually, which is that people are delusional if they think that Trump wouldn't be the nominee. The people are saying, like, oh, he's not on Twitter or Facebook. I'm like, listen, that doesn't matter. I mean, he's like literally the most popular figure in the Republican Party by a mile. The question, I think, is probably not even amongst independents, but the more marginal GOP voters, people who traditionally vote for the party, but not necessarily in a primary. What about those people, Richard? What does the data tell us on that front?
So we've seen just a few polls on 2024, and Trump usually is something, we've seen Trump get about 50%. I mean, in a huge field, and nobody else is even close. There's no clear second place. I think that the Republican Party, I mean, from years of polling and looking at the research, I think there's, a few camps. I think there's absolute Trump loyalists. There's probably 30-40% of the party will be with him no matter what. That might be enough. If it's 15 people running like last time, you don't need to get anyone else. The Liz Cheney types are maybe, 10 to 20% of the party. They're a minority, but then the rest are closer to the Trump loyalists than they are to the Liz Cheneys. It's not like they sit around and they say, "Oh man, I wish this guy would go away." They genuinely like Trump. They might be open to DeSantis, or they might be open to somebody else. But they could easily go back in the Trump fold. So if you have that 30-40% base, you have the rest that's gettable. You have a divided field. Now the only, assuming Trump runs, it would have to not be a divided field. So somebody has to pop up and they have to consolidate. If it's like 10 guys and they all look equally plausible, that's not going to work. And so something like the rise of DeSantis. Now, if DeSantis just becomes sort of the guy everyone thinks is next in line, he might have a chance. It's theoretically plausible. He could consolidate that anti-Trump support, but it's still hard to see. I mean, DeSantis is like the rest of the party who's saying that Trump legitimately won the election and should still be president. So for him to turn around and start attacking Trump, which we'd have to do, or any of these guys to do that, it's just, hard to imagine.
Yeah, it just seems simply impossible. What gives you the confidence that Trump is going to run again?
Well, it's funny because the people say, oh, he doesn't want to run. He just wants attention. And I think we can all agree with that. I think if we can know one thing about Trump's personality, he likes attention. Now, I don't know, so I don't know why this is an argument against him running, because one way to get a lot of attention seems to be to become president of the United States, or to at least run for president of the United States. Then when you run, you might as well try to win, because that's a lot of attention too. You see these videos of him. He's at Mar-a-Lago. He's giving speeches at these weddings. I can't believe that this man, who we think his entire world revolves around being the center of the world's attention, is happy with that and won't take another run at the presidency. It's just hard to see.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. You're starting to convince me, Richard. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sagar.
Good to see you, boss. All right, we'll have more Rising for everybody right after this.